What is up, guys? I watch a fair bit of the LCS, and one of the biggest things I find cool is seeing like the difference between what they pick and what we pick in solo queue. I kind of want to turn that idea into a video, so we're going to look at the most popular bans and picks in the LCS this week and whether they are good for solo queue, and if not, then why not? This is completely new, right? So let me know what you think, give me some feedback, like it if you did, dislike it if you didn't, but I'm thinking maybe do one of these each week or each patch if things keep changing. We're going to look at the NA and EU LCS, and I got these stats from a site called Games of Legends, which I'll link down below if you want to see some other stuff about it. So firstly, the most popular bans. Bans normally mean that they think the champion is too overpowered and they aren't willing to let the other team play it even if they get some strong picks in return. Ryze was banned in 19 out of 20 games and picked the other one time he wasn't in Europe, and almost the same in NA, banned 21 out of 24 and picked once. Having such a high ban rate would mean that they think he's going to be a massive problem in the game, but in solo queue, at least win rate wise, he is not doing very well at all. Ryze is a champion that you can actually play around quite well, so you can gank for him, get him ahead, and accelerate his weak early game into a deadly mid game. In solo queue, that is a lot harder to do. You're more likely to get camped by their jungler than helped by yours. We're definitely in more of an early game meta, right, where lane objectives mean more, so if Ryze is put ahead or the game stalls out, which is like kind of in the LCS, then he can fit into that really well, but if he isn't and falls behind, he isn't going to do very much. Also remember, we're actually seeing more aggressive laners come back up in solo queue now, which is going to hurt his early game even more. So only 3 champions were picked and banned in every single NA and EU LCS game, and 2 of them were almost always banned. Kindred and Nidalee are these two. Nid definitely seems to be viewed as a bigger problem though, receiving way more bans, and it's funny because actually for solo queue I would have swapped them around. Nidalee does have this power to take over a game early and just snowball it out of control completely. If you're a good Nidalee player, you'll do a lot of damage, you'll gank a lot, you'll get kills, create a lot of opportunities for yourself and keep that pressure up. Kindred on the other hand is still very good, right? Still snowballs hard and does a lot of damage, but she kind of preys on mistakes really, rather than just brute forcing ganks with crazy mobility and damage like Nidalee. Nid is a much riskier and proactive playstyle, but in a pro player's hands is deadly. For solo queue though, Kindred is a little bit more reliable, it's decent damage and a good late game. Also the ultimate is much harder to deal with. People are not saving their Azir or Gragas ultimates to knock people out of it, and that's kind of why I think Kindred is better for solo queue than Nidalee. So those are the 3 biggest bans that we actually saw coming into week 1. Let's move on to the roles and some of the most popular picks we saw. So I want to go ahead and start with the jungle. Rek'Sai was an extremely popular pick in NA, but she wasn't really as much in Europe. For our games, Rek'Sai is okay, decent but nothing special. She can tank well but lacks damage unless you build it, which isn't really that good for carrying a game. We are in an objective style meta right now with how important towers and dragons are, and nobody has better cross-map control than Rek'Sai. Her ultimate can let her base and ult back to fights, get from one side of the map to the other and stop ganks. It's just like the perfect counter to any sort of aggression that teams put out. Rek'Sai can still jump across the map, right? But 1, the player probably doesn't have the tunnels set up properly. 2, the rest of the team won't be collapsing as well anyway. And 3, objectives usually comes after kills in solo queue, not just from map movement or coordination like in the LCS. Like if the enemy team is doing Baron, just because you and Rek'Sai can get there, that does not mean your team will be ready in a place to help you do it. This is kind of the perfect example actually of top tier for coordinated play but average for solo queue. Let's go to the top lane, and there was quite a shake up here for us at least in solo queue, right? But I don't think there's any surprise to see Echo here. You can see there were only a handful of games where he wasn't picked or banned. This is the same for solo queue really. While he is kind of falling off a little bit, he still has this AoE stun, very hard to deal with, the mobility which is crazy, tanky and has damage. The most well-rounded pick for sure. We all know about Echo already, so let's look at one that was kind of like the 3rd most popular after Echo and Maokai, which was Trundle. Trundle is a great answer to these tanks, but he offers like 3 different things really. The first thing is he is great against tanks and can actually beat them in the lane phase with his ult. He's going to steal their stats, heal a lot and do a lot of damage. Winning lanes are always great for an earlier focus meta. The second thing is he is really good as a split pusher. Like LCS teams use him to push towers down, and he has a lot of pressure. He can take those towers quickly, but also because tanks struggle to stop him. Third thing, in team fights he can ult the big tank, which lets him steal those stats and last longer as a front line, but more importantly it lets his AD carry absolutely crush their front line. We all know that AD carries kind of at the moment struggle a little bit mid game, and this is a big deal actually. It helps your AD do more earlier into the game. For solo queue I think he's still good, but obviously not really top 3. He's not so much like a split pusher, but he's able to dick on tanks in lane, which is good. Plus you can even stand up to these Irelia carry picks with your ult as well. He's not quite as effective because we don't use him as well as we should do, but like his ultimate team fight Ryze, for example, but he can still be very effective to do a lot of work. Victor was the most popular mid laner this week, with Azir just kind of a little bit behind, though Azir was banned quite a bit. At the moment, Victor is one of the most popular mid laners anyway, right? For the exact same reasons as in the LCS. Good wave clear, good damage, long range poke, and very high sustained damage with his ultimate. So if we already know about that one, let's pick a more interesting one. If you watch the games, you probably didn't see Vlad too much, but mainly because he was banned a lot. He was picked or banned in 17 out of 20 games in Europe and 15 out of 24 in North America. Vlad is so annoying to play against and can be so hard to kill once he gets ahead. I think this is one where pros have kind of figured out how to play him, but solo queue is still messing around. Once they figure it out though, there will be so many more Vlad players. The third Q heal is crazy, so is the heal from your ult, and you're like this kind of frontline mage tank. It's ridiculous. You have your pull, right? A ton of health, you have heals, a Zonya, and you'll just live for such a long time while doing loads of damage in between. Even though Vlad is a higher priority in the LCS right now, I think this is one actually that is still really good in LCS and good for solo queue. Right, so let's look at supports, because Karma was the most played in North America, but really is not that good in our games. In Europe, she was barely played or banned, but in North America, she was in 21 out of 24 games. Let's go over why she's so good in the LCS first. So early damage to poke out the enemy AD carry is nice, but the Mantra shield, the shield on everyone, is insanely good for engaging or disengaging. You can protect immobile mids like Victor or Azir and AD carries at the same time, and you can do this often as well. You can stack up cooldown reduction really easily, which means more shields in fights. Your root is actually a very good engage tool to catch people and roam around the map as well. We saw that a lot in the LCS this week. So why not in our games then? So the damage falls off after the lane phase. Honestly, you're not going to be doing as much unless you build really full damage, which is probably not optimal. Teams are just not coordinated enough to use the AoE shield properly. They're not on the same page to run in or out of a fight. Like, she is great at countering whatever happens. If they want to engage, you shield and run. They don't want to fight, you shield and run in. That level of play is just not really in our solo queue games, let's be honest. Okay, kiting is hard to do with 4 random players that you're not talking to, and other supports can just protect more effectively in actual fights. Finally, let's go on to the AD carries. I left them until last because, well, honestly, there's just kind of the 3 most popular ones in solo queue as well. While it is Lucian, Ezreal, and Caitlyn, Lucian was the only one out of these 3 to be picked or banned in every single game in North America and Europe. It's the exact same reasons for the LCS and for us. So damage earlier into the game, they can stay safe and deal with divers. They're more effective earlier into the game as well. So all 3 of these have damage and mobility, plus a really good late into the game as well as early. They all have like specifically good things. I guess Lucian can shred tanks and do a lot of burst damage. Ezreal can kite and poke really well, and Caitlyn can trap and zone, which is really good for siege comms. These things are all the same reasons we're seeing them more than anyone else in our games as well. Most likely it's going to stay that way for a little while. In future episodes of this though, I'll be taking some of the other picks and looking at them, but I felt like because this was the first one and these are the most popular picks, I kind of had to talk about them and how they interact with us and our games. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please give me any feedback or let me know what you think of it. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, and share. But for now, let's go to the robots.